Did you dig that? Did you dig that groovy music?
You know what I was thinking? I was thinking you guys know how to lay down a beat.
Yes. Yes,
That's
indeed.
what I was thinking.
That's what we do.
And a big shout out to all the people who put the show on.
Yes.
Couple things, Joy.
Yes.
Number one, I was watching your coverage of what is a remarkable and, dare I use the word, ineffable interview, an indescribable interview in certain ways that broke in your hour. And since you've been breaking the story, we just obtained the entire transcript, 18 pages of the rest of the interview. Would you be willing? You have it now. Would you be willing to review and join me later this hour? Because I want to know what you think of some of the other parts.
Oh, absolutely. I am marking it up, and I will be right there.
And I will only add, this was not planned, because I didn't know the president was going to sit down and do an interview without any lawyer or any aide and just talk to the Times, and I didn't know I would need Joy Reid, which I do.
Me
so
neither.
I will see you soon.
Excellent. See you in a bit.
Thank you, Joy.
Bye.
As she mentioned, I am Ari Melber in for Lawrence O'Donnell here in New York on a breaking news night. In addition to Joy, Lawrence will be joining this show live later this hour. But the breaking news is, as discussed, the president sitting down for what appears to be a completely unplanned, impromptu interview. No aide present, no lawyer present, nobody on Team Trump present, which is not how presidents usually do any interview. And this was about half an hour of grilling, as we mentioned, by the New York Times. It took place at Trump's golf club in West Palm Beach. And this story, as I mentioned, it crossed the wire around 9 p.m. Joy Reid reporting those key parts. Moments ago, we got this longer transcript coming out from the New York Times, and there is a lot in it. It is quite the interview. More details here on the Russia probe, Trump's views of Attorney General Jeff Sessions, including more criticism of him, his views of Eric Holder, who he says was protecting Barack Obama, his views of Tony Podesta, a Democrat who Mueller has been investigating, and of course, going back to Hillary Clinton. The first big takeaway, I think, is that you see a legally strategic Donald Trump in this interview. He knows what he's doing, and he strikes a canny balance. He is not in partisan overdrive tonight, attacking Mueller by name like so many Trump allies. Instead, Donald Trump claims he's on some kind of higher ground, and he says, he predicts Bob Mueller will be fair to him. Quote, the Times writing, the president did not demand an end to the Russia investigations here through this new interview, but insisted 16 times there's been no collusion discovered by the inquiry. It makes the country look very bad. It puts the country in a very bad position. So the sooner it's worked out, the better for the country, the president claims. Trump also telling the Times that he is apparently, he says, not bothered by the fact that he has no idea when this Russia probe will be completed. That may be hard to swallow because we know Donald Trump's own lawyers have publicly proclaimed it would be over by Thanksgiving. If you're keeping track, if you have a calendar, you know that holiday came and went and the probe continues. Trump also telling the Times in this new interview tonight, Democrats invented the Russia allegations as a hoax, as a ruse, as an excuse for losing an election. He said, quote, everybody knows his associates didn't collude with the Russians, and insisted that the real stories are about Democrats who worked with the Russians in the 2016 campaign. President then turned his attention, as I mentioned, to Attorney General Jeff Sessions. This is important when you consider that this is the individual recused from an ongoing probe of potential obstruction, among other things. Donald Trump saying it was, quote, too bad that Sessions recused. And then the Times asked a pretty intelligent question. The reporter asked Donald Trump to compare Jeff Sessions to the previous administration's Attorney General, Eric Holder, under Obama. And Donald Trump said this, I don't want to get into loyalty, but I will tell you that I will say this. Holder protected President Obama, totally protected him. When you look at the things that they did, and Holder protected the president. And I have great respect for that. I'll be honest. I have a little more on that in a moment. Trump also asked here in this very newsy interview whether he would order the Justice Department to reopen the investigation into Hillary Clinton's emails, something that he has talked publicly about. And he said that he will, quote, stay uninvolved with this particular matter. And then he said something that you could take quite ominously. He told the New York Times tonight, I have the absolute right to do what I want to do with the Justice Department. The fairest way I can tell you what that really means is that claim under our Constitution is not necessarily true. It does depend, of course, on what the president wants to do. Let's get right to it with David Frum, senior editor from The Atlantic, Natasha Bertrand, a political correspondent, Business Insider, who's been following the Russia probe, and Wendy Sherman, a former Undersecretary of State of Political Affairs and a former special advisor to President Clinton on North Korea. David, your view of what is important about this interview and the portrait of the president we see tonight.
Right.